Former New South Wales Premier Barry O'Farrell hasn't done much since standing down amidst a corruption scandal last year, at least according to his Twitter.
A fantastic production of Cats musical opened at the Capitol Theatre tonight. Delta Goodrums rocked. #CatsAU.
But right now, he's probably scoffing shots of Grange in celebration with the news that his signature policy, the lockout laws, are apparently working.
Well, this calls for a celebration. I will.
The laws came into effect throughout the Sydney CBD and notorious party strip King's Cross in March last year, after some high-profile alcohol-related deaths. They include no shots after midnight, no takeaways after 10 p.m, a 1:30am lockout from venues and no booze at all after 3 a.m. These laws have annoyed partygoers, clubs, pubs and libertarians alike, even prompting a Senate inquiry.
This is typical nanny state egotistical arrogance.
A new study released this week in the Medical Journal of Australia shows a statistically significant drop in alcohol-related presentations to St Vincent's Hospital, situated in the heart of Sydney's lockout zone. There's been a 25% decrease in alcohol-related serious injuries on weekends, and overall, numbers have dropped from 318 incidents pre-lockout to 246 post-lockout. The drop is being claimed as a win for the laws, but others are unfazed.
It doesn't tell us whether the lockout specifically was effective at reducing violence.
Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk is mulling over similar changes throughout the state, and New South Wales Premier Mike Baird may spread the laws to more areas. Melbourne already tried and quickly canned a lockout in 2008, and the other capital cities are generally moving to tighter, earlier lockout laws.
Samantha, and I'll be debating affirmatively the topic of are the lockout laws unfair?
And hi, I'm Bronte, Liddell, and I'm going to be debating against the topic the lockout laws unfair.
There are a number of points that I'll be discussing, including the detrimental effects that the lockout laws have had on cultural, social aspects and the music industry, statistics involved, and alcohol-fueled violence and the effects the laws have had on neighbouring suburbs. A review of the lockout laws were implemented in 2014 by the New South Wales Department of Justice showed that antisocial behaviour in Sydney has dropped 80% since 2012. However, the largest drop occurred before the lockout laws came into effect, specifically between 2010 and 2012. The report concludes that the peak antisocial behaviour occurred, interestingly, at closing times of venues, which coincide with last drink orders and the amount of individuals leaving the venues. Interestingly, a survey conducted by the City of Sydney established there was no relationship between the incidence of antisocial behaviour and the concentration of licensed venues. The New South Wales Department of Justice Law Review decided from these statistics that the issue of antisocial behaviour weighed against the choice to retain the lockout laws. As a result, it concluded that there are much more simple and cost-effective ways to address this problem through non-restrictive measures. The laws have affected small business, the music industry, employment and tourism. A Senate inquiry into the need for a nationally consistent approach to alcohol-fueled violence by Music Australia in 2016 showed the laws are over-inclusive. The laws have affected negative economic, cultural and social impacts on the live music scene, nighttime economies and the development of global cities. From a community and social determinant level, it's affecting individual musicians, staff, venue owners, operators, stakeholders, and nighttime economies. In addition to this, new areas with undeveloped infrastructure where music may migrate, city, state, national tourism, and broader society through reduced social, cultural immunity, which was previously a vibrant city centre. The laws have subsequently failed to recognise by one aspect of the key issue in this argument, alcohol-fueled violence. Issues it has not addressed include violence between patrons within venues, who arrive prior to the lockout, violence in the streets, excessive alcohol consumption by the individual prior to going out and prior to the lockout deadline, the impact the laws have had on moving the problem elsewhere, and the systematic social and cultural causes of excessive alcohol consumption and violence generally. In addition to this, statistics from the New South Wales Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research have shown that there's been up to a 375% increase in violence in the surrounding areas of the lockouts. The Boys Car hotspots demonstrates that Pyrmont has a significant increase in violence, likely due to the casino's exclusion from the lockout laws.
So what I'm getting from you is that because of the lockout laws, because people are no longer out until 4 a.m. drinking until their liquors can't handle it, social. I would like to suggest that this might not be because of the actual lockout laws, but it is because of people, young people, are so reliant on alcohol to give them a social life, now have no idea what to do themselves. Maybe it's the fact that they're so reliant on technology to give them a social life that they no longer know how to go out during the day, how to have a normal conversation with friends, or to have a good time without the need of alcohol. The amount of drunks, aggression, and unsafeness has decreased since the lockout laws were introduced in 2014. But now people are worried about reputation businesses, which, might I add, drinking establishments have a much higher rate of alcohol-related violence than any other setting. You stated that the cultural side of Sydney's nightlife was disappearing. Well, I think there is a middle ground. Yes, Sydney life can be supported and made vibrant again, but is it really worth it if people are dying from king hits or going to hospital due to alcohol poisoning or head injuries? Why have people forgotten about the real reasons why this law was implemented? They aren't created to purposely decrease sales, but simply to protect the people. St Vincent Hospital saw the worst of the worst, being King's Cross's the local hospital. By analysing data from the emergency department's information system, it was seen that within the 12 months of the law being introduced, there was a 25% decrease in alcohol-related critically injured patients. Intensive care numbers have decreased, immediate brain surgery decreased, and overall assaults have decreased. It was also found that this decrease was especially evident during the party peak hours of the weekend. It goes safe without saying that the majority of partiers will venture out into the nightlife on Fridays and Saturdays, leaving Sundays to recover. With the lockout law, people can still go out party, but it just means they can't do it until the early hours of the next day, or fear for their friends' lives if they were punched and are now in a coma. The law is doing its job.
It's interesting points, Bronte. I just have a few other statistics to wrap that up though. So the most recent Australian data by the ABS cause of death in 2012 reports deaths due to suicide at 2,535. Mike Baird, in a social media post in February 2016, explained that due to the lockouts, doctors across the city are seeing far less emergency room presentations on the weekends. Interestingly, a report conducted by the ABS in relation to problem gambling, the costs involved are not only financial but emotional. 1 in 10 problem gamblers is said to have contemplated suicide because of gambling. In addition to this, the doctors from the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney have reported that in 2012, almost 1 in 5 suicides are due to problem gambling. The Royal Commission found that accessibility of gaming machines was the key risk factor involved in problem gambling. If we're going to go with the statistics of the 1 in 5 suicides that are due to problem gambling, that would equate to approximately 500 people. Yet there were 2 isolated deaths in 2012 and 2013 that were not linked to alcohol or venues before the designated lockout time, but were enough to rush through an ill-informed legislation. As a result of this legislation, there has been a significant increase in foot traffic at the casino due to the exemption of the casinos in the lockout areas. And in addition to this, the legislation has justified relinquishing lockouts on CBD venues with poker gaming room facilities. A recent protest on the 21st of February 2016 showed 15,000 people turn up to rally their resentment to the New South Wales lockout laws. These people protested that the lockout laws have destroyed nightlife, threatening business, jobs in music, hospitality industries, and increased crime in neighbouring areas. This, as a result, will affect tourism and in the later effects of globalisation. In the UK, there is cooperation with police and security, and they all use CCTV. By targeting those who have a tendency towards violence, we can use this method to advocate for a holistic and lateral approach by examining how dense or diverse the licensed premises are, educating management of the venues, and implementing tougher sentences. This is very disappointing for local business and some residents, or people who are involved in the nightclubs. There was no opportunity for cooperation with the people who are actually on the ground there. There's a serious cultural issue of violence in Australia. However, shutting down small business, which ultimately will result in the culture and social issues, is not going to resolve this. The government needs to use foresight and lateral thinking skills to combat this situation, not using a knee-jerk reaction, which affects many thousands of individuals. I feel like we've gone from such vibrancy and depth in our culture to a grey city of mediocrity and blame nothingness. Whatever happened to creating a better future for generations to come? Has that concept died in Sydney? Should we not be looking at ways to educate those who have issues that cause them to cause this violence? Safety is a goal shared by all individuals, and late night socialising shouldn't be an issue if one wants to. Sydney is an international city with over 4 million people, and the majority of people enjoy a safe, incident-free time There have been tight RSA laws implemented by venues prior to lockouts, and there are statistics that have proven these laws to be a success. The music community and the law-abiding citizens should not be punished for violence in the streets.
You did make some good points, and I can't say that I fully agree with them, but they were okay. It also has been said that these laws are a major contributor to the nanny state, but in my opinion, the laws are more civilised. It was a major problem. This law is providing New South Wales a safe nightlife. It is exterminating alcohol-fueled violence, which can lead to short-term and long-term consequences for both the individual and their families as well as the government. Yes, the death toll for suicide, as you said, might be higher, but that doesn't mean we can completely forget about other issues within society. Although it can be hard for a hospital to overall reduce costs needed, for example, workers on duty or the amount of resources available per week, in the long run it would significantly reduce the associated and overall costs. Sometimes it's not just about the mortality and morbidity statistics, but the burden to the community and healthcare system. They must be considered. This law is reducing the amount of people walking around late at night within the CBD. Only certain locations, such as the King's Cross and Newtown, they had high densities of people drinking high amounts, which made it worse in terms of conflict. It was a domino effect of drinking and violence. There was a fight, drunken Team C wants to join in, and so on and so forth. Unless you want future generations of alcohol-fueled monsters, I see no harm in this law being implemented to keep not only our generation safe, but the ones to come. From a health perspective, we are decreasing mortality and morbidity rates, as well as saving the health system a ton of money. Prevention is key in the public health sector. Yes, as always, not everyone agrees with the law, and maybe a few tweaks could be done here and there to bring back the apparent lost dignity. But isn't keeping everyone safe all that matters?